Welcome back to Havoc Maker Studio. My name is John. Today we're going to cover a bunch of gaming news. So hold on to your pants or whatever it is you happen to be wearing because we got some really cool stuff we're going to talk about. First thing is that I'm super excited about. You guys have known I've been talking about this for months, and I even got the image right down below that it's coming soon because we're going to paint the hell out of Luke Cage and Danny Rand, the Iron Fist. And these bottles, we'll probably spend a week on each here on the Twitch channel. We're going to do some live streaming, and I'll even probably get those videos translated over here to YouTube. Maybe as even a paint tutorials. We're going to paint them just like they show in their images coming from Atomic Mass Games. So let's talk about Luke Cage, the man, the myth, the legend, the sweet Christmas. So Luke Cage is probably next to Iron Fist. They're in my top 10 category of characters that are my absolute Marvel favorites. Uh, Others being like She-Hulk and Havoc. I almost said Havoc Maker, which might give you a clue of part of where the studio's name comes from. So Luke Cage, if you're not familiar with him, back in the I think it was late '60s, early '70s, was created, and he was subjected, or he was in prison, and he was subjected to a experimental process that gave him his power. I believe it was called like the Burstein process, and the result of that was he got superhuman strength, stamina, and pretty much near invulnerability, if I remember all of his complete power set. He went from being able to just bench press and lift like normal human to I think around 5-10 tons, and over the years he would get even stronger. And I think his max at one point was around 25 tons. That's when Marvel was putting out the stats for how much everybody could lift and toss and run and all that jazz. So, and he has a minor healing factor. I think he's like heals 60 or 70% faster than the average human. So broken bones, uh, pierced flesh, which it's very rare for his skin to be pierced, but whatever, heals 60%, 60, 70% faster. Let's say 75%. I could be wrong in that number. Not an issue here. So he's pretty strong, pretty tough, and he's got a lot of a lot of stamina. I think what's really cool about the character is even though he is superhuman, he is a street level character, fighting, especially during the '70s and the '80s, fighting against gangs and crime. A lot of inner city related activities. He did have this cast of supervillains alongside alongside Iron Fist, Danny Rand, and those two are really kind of like a nice, funny buddy cop almost team up because you have this rich white boy and this poor black man, and they team up and end up having this really, for me, a very memorable relationship. I remember them reading the comics from back in the '80s, all the way up through their time with Heroes for Hire, and then sometime in the early 2000s or maybe mid 2000s, Luke Cage became a member of the Avengers, the new Avengers, after Avengers Disassembled happened and a lot of bad things took place. He teamed up with, I believe it was Captain America, Wolverine, Spider-Woman, Spider-Man, Ronin, which I think at the time that version of Ronin was Clint Barton. Or the guy that's known as Hawkeye. I don't remember. It might not have been, but I'm pretty sure it was. Anyway, so they teamed up, and I think Sentry was a part of that. I think that's when Sentry was just making his debut in the comics. So he's had a very storied past. So coming up come around full circle here, comic book wise, I think he went through the process a second time, either intentionally or unintentionally, and now he's even more stronger and more durable, greater stamina. I think he can lift around 50 tons now. Marries Jessica Jones. If you guys are familiar with the TV show Jessica Jones on Netflix, or her in the Alias comics, not Alias TV show with Jennifer Gardner. It was the Alias comics where she's like a detective. At any rate, I'm sorry, I'm just giving you guys lots of background information about Luke Cage. But him and Jessica Jones end up having a baby together. I don't think he's part of the Avengers anymore. He might be just running around. I think him and Luke or Iron Fist have started up their own series again. It's Luke Cage and Iron Fist. I don't think it's Iron Fist and Power Man anymore. But let's get into the Marvel Crisis version of this character. So he used to be called Power Man. Now he just goes by Luke Cage. And there's some indication from some people have said that because of an encounter with the Black Panther back in the day, that's where he went by changed his name to Luke. I believe his real name is Carl Lucas. And I think he just turned it around. But that's neither here nor there. So let's talk about the miniature itself. Can't get a much larger picture, but we're definitely going to be doing this guy. I've been actually practicing painting blue jeans on some other miniatures, and I'm glad I have been because this dude is going to look phenomenal. I'm going to make him, kind of so excited. So looking at his abilities, and we're going to get his stat cards probably later this week or next week. So let's take a look at what he's got. So he has an above average. He's going to have above average physical defense, what Atomic Mass Games is saying. So probably a 4 or a 5 on the physical defense. I'm guessing probably 4. It'd be awesome if he was a 5, but I have a feeling it'll be a 4. Combined with another ability that we'll get to later on is going to make him very durable. His basic attack that doesn't cost anything except using an action is his Power Man Punch. And it's strength 5, so that means he rolls 5 dice. However, this basic attack, if he gets 2 wild dice on his attack roll, then he can inflict the stagger condition on the opponent. Whether they take damage or not, as long as he got the 2 wilds, then they're going to get the stagger. So that's pretty cool. Any kind of condition can really, it's the difference between taking damage or not, really. So you look at his next ability, the Sweet Christmas attack, which Sweet Christmas is like his signature phrase. It costs 4 power. Now, they don't go into what it does, but it looks like it's going to cause a bunch of status effects, and it's probably going to have some pushback, which means once you hit the model, everything is resolved. All the damage is resolved. You push the model away. Probably about 2 to 3 inches, but that's really significant because you can push them into terrain. You can push them towards another one of your models that's going to be activating next turn, which could save them from having to spend an action to move to use their abilities on that target. So there's some good combos there if depending on the situations. So looking down, we're going to talk about too dangerous to ignore represents just how threatening he is. Don't know exactly what that is going to entail, but right now it looks like you can spend a couple power, and depending on how far away an opponent is, if they're targeting another allied character, those attacks now go to Luke Cage. And since he's got some good defenses and his invulnerability, which we're going to get to here in a moment, that means he could take the hit and probably shrug off all the damage that your squishier character that maybe does not have a lot of resistances or very high resistance against physical attacks like Luke Cage does. He can take those hits for him and probably shrug it off, which is that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Then we're going to get down to his thing called Impervious Skin, which this is what I was talking about earlier about with his above average physical resistance. So the Impervious Skin reduces the damage he takes by 1. Now, we don't know if that eliminates it to 0, but most of those type of abilities that reduce damage by 1 usually say to a minimum of 1. It'd be really cool if it just says, hey, you reduce the damage he takes by 1, and then if that means 0 damage, that's 0 damage. That'll be really awesome. And you combine that with his physical resistances and his energy resistance. At least in the comics, he was resistant pretty much to everything except for radiation. Radiation is like the one thing that he is not resistance to. So it looks like right now he's really going to be a brawler. He can take a hit and he's going to be able to dish it out. He might not have a lot of razzle dazzle, but he's going to be your tank. He's going to be the tank that's going to take the hits and giving you the opportunity to get other people into combat to deal out the big range damage, that sort of thing. He might also be a nice objective taker. So I've talked a little too long about Luke Cage, but I'm super excited if you can't tell. So let's jump over to Games Workshop. The Cursed City is going to be on pre-order this coming Saturday, which I believe is April 3rd. So April 3rd is going to go on pre-order. Before I get into the price, let's take a quick look at the contents. There is over 60 models. That includes the 10 objective markers, which are like these skeletons hanging from gallows and such. So those could end up being model miniatures that you could use as infantry or as objective markers or decoration, whatever. You can do a lot with that. So this box is going to be $199. That's what it looks like right now, unless I misunderstood. $199. And right now I'd say that's a rumor until Games Workshop comes out with a verified price. I don't have 100% proof. I've not seen the email yet from Games Workshop. I'm having to rely on what some other websites have reported, since I do occasionally do advertising work for a local store. So I can't be privy to exactly what the contents say because it will violate MAP and all that jazz. But I can take a guess. So we're going to break this box down. Now, putting all the knickknacks and everything that come along with this box, let's look at the value of it, the actual financial value. $200 or $199 is a lot to invest in this. So besides all the little knickknacks and everything, the game cards and everything, the game board, dice, whatnot, let's take a look at what you're going to be getting out of it. So you're going to get the rule book on how to play the game. You're going to get the quest book, which should be chock full of quests that'll last you, unless you play it all in like one day, last you months worth of play. At least enough time for Games Workshop to put out multiple expansions like they did for Blackstone Fortress. Excuse me. And also free in the White Dwarf, so you have to buy the White Dwarf, but free scenarios, probably almost, I would say in April's White Dwarf. I would not be surprised if there wasn't or I would be surprised if there was not a free scenario for the Cursed City in that issue. If not April, then probably May. And then the most important thing that most people are going to be really focusing on is the inclusion of the War Scroll cards. The War Scroll cards, for those of you that don't know, are the data sheets, the rules for using these miniatures in the Age of Sigmar battle game, where you set up your board, you have two opposing armies, and you duke it out. And with the coming Vampire Lords or the Corrupted Blood guy, I don't know, I can't remember the name of it, but with that coming out right around the corner, these models in here, at least the bad guys, the evil side, are going to be very important to have for that army, especially if there's 42, and if you somehow can work those 10 objective markers into there, the skeletal objective markers into your army somehow as miniatures, then you're looking at about 52 miniatures that's going to bolster your army. So let's take a look. Let's do a breakdown. Now they say there's 8 heroes, 42 hostiles, 10 objective markers. So some of those objective markers you might not be able to do. Other ones you might be able to. I'll leave that up to your creativity. Me, for example, I might make them banner bearers or standard bearers. Like the skeletons can be just extra skeletons in the skeleton units. The crow on I'm not even sure what that is, the pedestal, then that could probably maybe count as a banner, or maybe I could add some extra stuff to maybe count as a banner, or maybe as a musician. I don't know. It's going to be stretching, but I personally would want to get as much out of this box as possible for a starting army. So let's break down the value. $200 is a lot to eat. So I'm going to have my calculator off here to the side. So what we know is that there are three large bat swarms and 3 rat swarms. And now I did a count of the image that Games Workshop put up, and it's missing, I believe, about 7 miniatures, because this should be 35 here unless I miscounted. So I think we're missing about 7 miniatures. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. And if so, you can adjust the price accordingly. So starting with the character models, we have one large vampire guy. That's the top up here, with the wolf pelt over his left shoulder. And next to him is a necromancer. And then you can see the guy down on the right-hand side with the shovel, the skeleton with the big old spear standing up in the center. Those are the characters as far as we know. Now, they did list the 3 vampire dudes up in the upper right-hand corner as characters, and maybe the big werewolf vampire monster, the Vargulf, I think is what it might be called. So we're going to use those as character models because they'll probably be sold separately eventually. So with the exception of a couple models, we're just going to go ahead. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 models. We're not going to count the 3 vampires, and I'll get to that in a reason why. So we got 5 models. The average price is about $30 for a character. So let's go with $30 times, not 305, 30 times 5. So the bigger werewolf vampire thing and the big vampire leader, probably $35. So let's go ahead and add on another $10 there. Now, we're at $160 right now just for those characters, and that's based on Games Workshop's average prices. We can take a look at the skeletons, which are 10, and the zombies that are 10, probably based on like Blackstone Fortress prices and Games Workshop's overpricing sometimes. Let's say $40 per box, so that's another $80. We're just going to bundle the 2 big orc characters and the 6 swarm bases. We're going to say, and then we'll toss in those other 5 mysterious models in there as well. Let's just say that's another $40 for that box. And then it's probably going to be $40 for those 3 vampire guys. They might be might end up being a 5-man box for $60 or $50. So we're just going to say $40. This is being somewhat, we're trying to base out the averages. So right now, for the vampire bad guy side here, we're looking at $320 approximate. Some prices are a little high by $5, some are low by $5. So the average, we're going to say $320. And then let's take a look at the characters, the good guys. So once again, $30 per character. We have 8 characters here. The ogre will likely be a little bit more expensive because he's bigger, and Games Workshop will add on a price. So we're just going to tack on $5 more for him. So that's $245 right there. That's $30 per character, 8 characters. That's $240 plus an extra 5 for the ogre. So let's add on $240. So right now, $560. Now those markers, Games Workshop's marker sets, they're usually very elaborate and they're like around $35. So let's make those 10 markers that we get in there, let's make that 25 because they're kind of generic. So now we're at $585. We're not worried about all the other knickknacks. Miniature wise, we're $585. And since I was a little high, maybe a little low, let's drop that. Let's be generous. Drop that down to $500, even though it's probably very accurate on being close to $600. But let's say $500. So this box set is $199. And we're being generous and dropping it down to $500. I'm going to do some simple math here, and I'm going to do it wrong so I can do it right. So what is that? We're getting about a 60% savings out of this box. Now, if you're able to sell off those heroes or just hold on to them for later, if you're looking at using this for an army, but you got somebody who wants those models, you might not be able to split the box. You might have to eat about 2/3 the price versus 1/3 or 25, 75, whatever. But if you can split this box with somebody, let's say they pay you $50, right? You are going to be getting $150, or you're going to be getting about $320 for 150. Basically, you're going to get about half off your miniatures. So the Cursed City is a good box, whether you want, if you're interested in the board game itself, which I would say 20%, being very, I could be generous, 25% of customers are going to be interested in the board game, and that's being very generous. I used to work for them. We know what we want, guys. We know what the customer base is like. So 25% of people will be interested in the game. The remaining 75% of people that are interested in a box are going to want it for modeling or for Age of Sigmar. And if you're able to split the box, there's a lot of value there. Overall, is this box worth it for a board game player or an Age of Sigmar player looking to make a vampire army? Yes, 110%. I don't even know if you can actually get to 110% positivity on that, but if so, you are going to want that box. It is well worth it. So let's move on. Let's move on to Star Wars. Star Wars Legion, coming out of Fantasy Flight Games and Atomic Mass Games, who is taking over all the rules writings for Star Wars Legion, X-Wing, and Armada, thankfully. We've got some new advanced vehicles coming out. Finally, transports for Star Wars Legion. Star Wars Legion started out kind of rough, but has grown to something very substantial. It's still not a Games Workshop killer, but it's definitely pushed games like Kings of War and War Machines and Hordes off to the side, and it's slowly rising through the ranks to eventually be a solid contender for Warhammer and Age of Sigmar Warhammer 40,000. So these transports have a variety of roles. So obviously they can transport a full unit, one unit. They've got all their special abilities, what you'd expect, the armor values, how fast they move, all that kind of rule stats for the Star Wars Legion game. The models look very stunning. I mean, Star Wars vehicles are kind of always been hit or miss for me, but the quality of the miniature is really freaking good. I'm very impressed with the quality. They're definitely capturing not only the spirit and essence of Star Wars and their vehicles and whatnot, but they're also giving us some high quality miniatures, where in the beginning it was a little rough on the quality of the miniatures, but over the past few years since it's been out, Star Wars Legion has gotten so good. So proud of them for doing it. This also has, if you have the ability to get a special character, or if you want to buy a special character, you can get it for the rules already come with this transport. It's got special abilities for shooting and as a command vehicle, and also as transport. So it doesn't just have to be a transport vehicle. This is good. I mean, it's a little looks like a yellow school bus, a floaty yellow school bus, but the fact that they've done this, I'm very, very impressed with games or Fantasy Flight Games. Now, on the flip side, that was for the Rebels. This is for the Galactic Republic. And I think, if I'm understanding these cards right here, it's also for the Empire. Don't quote me on that. That's something I'm going to have to look into. I'm still not 100% up on the game, but we have the two different style transports. And it does look like, since we have two different stat cards, I would say it is for both games. So same thing, gets a transport vehicle. This one has a little bit more of a flying capability, and I think it's the better of the two, just visually speaking. I think it's really cool looking. I really like this type of weird, almost insect-like flyer. I think it looks really cool. And it's going to have the same things. It can act as like a command vehicle. You can get a special character in there. It's going to be equipped with all sorts of weaponry. So it's not just a flying transport that's going to get shot down. Once you deliver your cargo, what do you do with these type of transport vehicles? Well, it's mounted with a lot of weapons, and I think you can get some missiles on it if I read correctly earlier. So this could end up being a very versatile vehicle to have for your Star Wars Legion force, whether it's Galactic Empire or the Empire, or Galactic Empire or the Galactic Republic, depending on which army that you're using. So, with that said, my name is John. This is Havoc Maker Studio. If you get a chance, hit that subscribe button down below. Go ahead and leave a comment. It really does help, especially the subscribe button, because it really helps the Google Analytics push the content out. Check out my other video from yesterday about the Affinity RPG. And at the end of that video, you can listen to what I'm saying about an upcoming contest based on that video to be able to get you some free product. So take a listen to that. Definitely hit that subscribe button and leave a comment on that video as well to get yourself an opportunity to win some free stuff. So you guys have yourself a wonderful day. I'll be back probably later today with some more content. Have a wonderful day.